I cannot think of any need in childhood as strong as the need for a father's protection. Most people do not really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. The great question that has never been answered, and which I have not yet been able to answer, despite my 30 years of research into the feminine soul, is what does a woman want? I have found little that is good about human beings on the whole. In my experience, most of them are trash, no matter whether they publicly subscribe to this or that ethical doctrine or to none at all. That is something that you cannot say aloud, or perhaps even think. He that has eyes to see and ears to hear, may convince himself that no mortal can keep a secret. If his lips are silent, he chatters with his fingertips, betrayal oozes out of him at every pore. A civilization which leaves so large a number of its participants unsatisfied and drives them into revolt, neither has nor deserves the prospect of a lasting existence. The interpretation of dreams is the royal road to a knowledge of the unconscious activities of the mind. The conscious mind may be compared to a fountain playing in the sun, and falling back into the great subterranean pool of subconscious, from which it rises. America is the most grandiose experiment the world has seen, but, I am afraid, it is not going to be a success. Every normal person, in fact, is only normal on the average. His ego approximates to that of the psychotic, in some part or other and to a greater or lesser extent. The first human who hurled an insult, instead of a stone, was the founder of civilization. Illusions commend themselves to us because they save us pain and allow us to enjoy pleasure instead. We must therefore accept it without complaint, when they sometimes collide with a bit of reality, against which they are dashed to pieces. Men are more moral than they think, and far more immoral than they can imagine. The doctor should be opaque to his patients and, like a mirror, should show them nothing but what is shown to him. Children are completely egoistic, they feel their needs intensely, and strive ruthlessly to satisfy them. We have long observed that every neurosis has the result, and therefore probably the purpose, of forcing the patient out of real life, of alienating him from actuality. Just as a cautious businessman avoids investing all his capital in one concern, so wisdom would probably admonish us, also not to anticipate all our happiness from one quarter alone. Obviously one must hold oneself responsible for the evil impulses of one's dreams. In what other way can one deal with them? Unless the content of the dream, rightly understood, is inspired by alien spirits, it is part of my own being. Civilized society is perpetually menaced with disintegration through this primary hostility of men towards one another. The act of birth is the first experience of anxiety, and thus the source and prototype of the affect of anxiety.